Do you know what drives someone who doesn't value you the most? Is it that you act with dignity, calmly, and with total detachment, as if their presence no longer affected you in the slightest? Because the best way for someone to feel your absence is not by walking away, it's by staying, but without begging, without reacting, without trying to fit in where you're not respected. When you stop justifying yourself by seeking attention, by explaining your worth, the other person begins to feel an emptiness that they don't understand. And believe me, that's much more powerful than any scream or claim, because you no longer play the same game. Now you play with silence, with temperance, with self-respect that is born from true inner power, and that is not achieved by reading beautiful phrases on Instagram. It is trained, sharpened, practiced, and for that, there's Stoicism. That's why today I'm going to share with you 9 attitudes that will drive those who do not value you to despair, not out of revenge, but because you are no longer willing to continue giving away your energy to someone who doesn't know what to do with it. Stay until the end, because attitude number before and after in your way of relating. But before we begin, I want you to pay close attention to this story, because it will help you understand the heart of this whole video. Laura was 28 years old. She worked in graphic design and lived alone in a small apartment overlooking the traffic. Her life seemed stable, but inside she had been breaking down for months. She had been in a relationship with someone who made her feel invisible. It wasn't that he was cruel, at least not directly, but his indifference spoke louder than any words. He didn't ask how she was. He didn't celebrate her achievements. He didn't listen when she talked about her projects, her fears, her dreams. Everything revolved around him, and she allowed it with the hope that one day he would change. One night, after another senseless argument where he responded with, "You're exaggerating." As always, Laura locked herself in the bathroom. She didn't cry. She just looked at herself in the mirror, but this time with a different look. There was no more sadness, there was tiredness. That kind of tiredness that is not physical, but of the soul. She sat on the cold floor with her legs crossed and thought in silence for almost an hour. Then she got up, took a deep breath, and went out, but didn't say anything. The next morning, he woke up and Laura wasn't making breakfast like usual. She wasn't even home. She had gone out early for a walk without warning, without a cell phone. When she came back, she didn't explain anything. She greeted him kindly, but without anxiety. She looked him in the eyes, but no longer with supplication, but with temperance. That week she stopped sending him long messages when he didn't respond. She began to talk less and observe more. She was still there, but no longer to please. She was present, but no longer emotionally available, without yelling, without arguments, without threats. He began to despair, not because she ignored him, but because her silence began to say everything that her words hadn't been able to. And that was when Laura understood something that changed her life forever. When you recover your inner power, you don't need to fight for someone to value you. Your attitude does it for you. You don't explain yourself when you are silenced or ignored. One of the most powerful and most uncomfortable attitudes for those who don't value you is when you stop justifying your existence, when you no longer explain why you are silent, why you decided not to respond immediately, or why you simply prefer not to be where you are not. Listen, and it's not pride, it's self-respect, because when a person ignores you, they minimize you, or simply pretend that they don't notice your presence or your effort. What they really expect is for you to get on your knees emotionally to tell them, "Did I do something to you? Are you upset? Is everything okay?" They expect you to go into emotional beggar mode and go rescue what that person doesn't make an effort to take care of. And that's where you change the rules of the game, when you choose silence as a response and not as punishment, but as a firm declaration that you are no longer going to invest your energy in giving explanations to those who do not value them or deserve them, or ask for them from love, but from the ego. The Stoics were clear about it. Do not react to what you cannot control, and that includes emotions, pride, or the disdain of others. Then you simply act with measure, with temperance, with that calm. That makes those who are used to seeing you run after them uncomfortable, and that is right there where their despair begins, because they no longer have control over you, because you are no longer playing at chasing attention. You are focused on maintaining your center, and that disarms anyone try to ignore for strategy or play mystery. It's about finally understanding your value, and you don't need to go around explaining yourself as if your silence was a crime. So the next time someone ignores, you don't send that text explaining yourself. Don't apologize for your pause. Don't ask if everything is okay. Just go on with your day with your peace, and let the echo of your indifference do what your words no longer want to do to show cordiality. Without emotional availability, nothing disconcerts someone who took you for granted more than seeing you act politely, kindly, with good vibes, but without that emotional availability. You used to when you greet with a calm smile. You ask how they are politely and then move on with your life without trying to force a conversation, without waiting for crumbs of attention or approval. You are sending a clearer message than any complaint. I am no longer thirsty for your validation. And that is disconcerting for someone who had you accustomed to begging for affection, because your change is not aggressive, it is not cold, it is mature, firm, elegant is the type of energy that is born when someone begins to protect their peace of mind above their need to be accepted. And this is where Stoicism becomes a silent art of war, because it is not about turning into a block of ice or taking emotional revenge, but rather about being so clear about your value that you can be kind without being available, without opening your inner world to those who did not know how to take care of it. Seneca said, "He who has no power over himself is not free," and part of that power is knowing when to be and when to stop being emotionally, even if you're still there physically, and that is trained, because of course, you're going to want to fall into old dynamics. You're going to want to explain, insist, give more than necessary. But that's right where you must remind yourself, I don't have to empty myself for someone to feel full, so act with respect, with elegance, with that kind of temperance. That reflects security without arrogance, and when that person begins to notice that you are no longer emotionally available even though you are present, they are going to feel bewildered. They are going to look for the old version of you, the one that reacted, the one that went out of their way, and they won't find it because you are no longer there. You are with you, and believe me, that is desperate, because while they wait for a drama, you give them silence and calm, and that for someone who doesn't know what they want is unbearable. 3 responses without explaining your limits. There is something that completely disarms whoever took advantage of your patience, and it is seeing that now you set clear limits, without drama, without speeches, without eternal justifications. When you learn to say no naturally, to cancel a guilt-free plan, to mark your space without having to explain everything as if you were asking permission, that is where their discomfort begins, because they can no longer manipulate you with the classic "you may not like before," or "I notice you're distant." You simply respond calmly, "I'm fine, I just decided to prioritize myself," without entering into debates, without apologizing for respecting you. That attitude generates tremendous discomfort in those who were used to you always being flexible. Do you giving in to keep the peace? Do you doing emotional juggling so that no one would get upset? But there comes a time, you know, when the body, soul, and mind say enough, and there a new version of you is born, one that doesn't apologize for needing space, for leaving a message on read, for saying "I can't this time," and not from coldness or contempt, but from the stoic awareness that whoever does not know how to respect your limits does not deserve your sleepless nights. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly, "Perfect tranquility consists of the good order of the mind in its own kingdom." And part of that order is to stop being available to those who only appear when it suits them. So start practicing this attitude every day. Don't explain so much. Don't over-justify yourself. Don't lower your energy so that others don't get uncomfortable with your evolution. Whoever truly appreciates you will understand your limits. Whoever will not despair when they see that they can no longer manipulate your emotional agenda. And that is where you must stand firm without the need to get into battles. Because true power is not in shouting out your limits, but in living them without asking permission. 4. Stop trying to change their perception of you. One of the strongest signs of inner transformation, and one that bursts the ego of someone who never valued you, is when you stop making efforts to correct the image that person has of you. When you let go of that silent obsession with clearing up misunderstandings, to prove that you are not what they think or to recover what they used to feel for you, because while you're breaking your head trying to regain their attention, their appreciation, or their validation, that person is comfortably installed in the power that you gave them. And they're not going to change their perception because you ask them to. They will change, if they ever do, when you stop pursuing that change, because that's where the deepest shift occurs. You stop needing to clean up an image that doesn't correspond to you. You stop justifying your essence, begging for understanding, clearing your heart to someone who doesn't have the emotional maturity to see it. And at that point, when you no longer explain yourself or wear yourself out trying to correct what others decided to, think, a silent force appears that transforms everything. Self-respect, detachment from the outcome, mental freedom. Yes, it may hurt at first, but it's a wound that cleanses. It's that fire that doesn't destroy. It burns so that you are born again. And that according to Stoicism, is key to living with fortitude. Because as Epictetus said, if you seek to please others, you will become a prisoner of their judgments. So no more chains, no more long speeches where you explain why you did this or that, no more sentimental emails full of justifications. Now you simply act. Now you allow yourself to be yourself without a filter and without guilt, and let them think whatever they want. Because you are no longer building your identity on other people's opinions. You are walking firmly on your values, and that not only confuses those who thought you were insecure, it makes them uncomfortable, it unsettles them. It forces them to look in the mirror, because when you free yourself from wanting to be liked, they lose control of your Narrative 5 show genuine happiness without needing to include them. There is something that hurts more than contempt, and that is quiet disinterest. That authentic happiness that is born when you begin to enjoy your life without needing to share it with those who did not value you. When you stop waiting for them to ask you how you are, to seek approval, and simply live. You smile. You move forward, not to prove anything, but because you decided to stop depending emotionally on those who only used you as a mirror to feel important. And of course, that is uncomfortable, because when you were sad, insecure, or demanding, they felt necessary. They were in control. They knew that a look or a word from them could lift or destroy your day. But when they see that there is no trace of that need, that your laughter is real, that you give your time to those who deserve it, and that your plans no longer revolve around their presence, that's where the discomfort begins, because they don't understand how someone who was so emotionally available now walks lightly with enthusiasm without looking back. And it's not arrogance, it's freedom. That's what Marcus Aurelius said: the soul is strengthened by returning to itself, and you return to yourself, to the center, to your own enjoyment, not to provoke jealousy or to give lessons, but because you understood that happiness is a personal matter, and that whoever truly wants to be there will do so without you needing to beg for space. That's why this attitude is not only powerful, it is sacred, because it shows that your well-being no longer depends on external validation, that your joy is not a reaction but a conscious choice, and that hurts those who were used to seeing you dull, those who wanted you broken to feel whole. So smile, make your plans, share with others, cultivate your world without resentment, because when your happiness stops revolving around someone, that someone is forced to look at themselves and realize that maybe they are no longer necessary in your story. And that is what despairs in 6, not reacting when they try to provoke you. One of the things that most despairs those who do not value you but want to continue having power over you is that you no longer react, that you do not fall, that you do not respond as before, that you do not explode, that you do not defend or justify yourself when they make that passive-aggressive comment disguised as a joke, or when they do something hoping that you explode only to later say, "See, you're crazy." And therein lies the true change, when you choose not to enter the game. When you face that provocation, you simply remain silent with a firm mind and a calm heart, as if they could not reach you, because you are no longer affected by what before broke you. And for those who go to their control in your reactions, it is a total defeat. The Stoics called it apatheia, which is not insensitivity but self-control. It is the ability to see the fire without putting your hand in that instant in which you know that you can answer, explode, humiliate, or defend yourself with force. But you choose not to do it because you understood that the one who wears down the most is the one who reacts the most. And you are no longer willing to give away your peace of mind just to win an empty argument. And of course, this is not understood by those who fed on your emotions, those who provoke you to feel superior. When they manage to get you out of your center, that is why now that you do not react, you look at them without fear. You breathe and continue on your way as if nothing happened. They enter into crisis, and that is where your strength shines with more intensity, not because you are cruel or indifferent, but because you learn to protect your energy like who takes care of a temple. And that's exactly what you do, training temperance like a muscle every time you choose conscious silence over impulsive reaction. So when they provoke you, because they will try, smile for yourself. Remember that whoever masters their reaction masters the situation and walks firmly, because calm in the midst of chaos is not only a Stoic virtue, it's one of the most powerful weapons that exist. 7. Being yourself without seeking to please anyone, one of the most liberating attitudes for you and most desperate for those who do not value you, is when you finally allow yourself to be yourself without embellishments, without masks, without that constant need to like to be liked, to be accepted by those who do not even know how to value themselves. Because when you change your energy from "what do I have to do to please him" This is who I am, period. The world is divided into those who walk away because they cannot stand your authenticity, and those who stayed because they deeply respect it. And believe me, those who previously controlled you emotionally are going to feel the change is a threat because they can no longer mold you. They can no longer manipulate you through judgment or comparison. Now you speak naturally. You give your opinion without fear. You dress how you like. You make your plans without consulting if it looks good or sounds logical, and that generates discomfort because you are no longer filtering yourself to fit into other people's molds. You are living from your essence, and that, as Marcus Aurelius would say, is living in harmony with nature. And your nature is not to please everyone. It is to express yourself coherently, with integrity, with truth. And yes, this bothers, makes uncomfortable despairs those who felt they had the power to judge your steps because you yourself gave them that power. But not anymore. Now they are still waiting for the you from before, the one who apologized for having different opinions, who said yes even though they wanted to say no, who lowered their voice so as not to bother. But you are no longer there. Now you speak clearly, you think free, you walk firmly, and if someone doesn't like that, you don't see it as a loss, you see it as a purification. So the next time someone shows annoyance because you are showing yourself authentic, don't explain, don't correct, don't shrink, smile inside, because right at that moment, you are teaching them a lesson that their ego will not forget that you did not. You were born to be a decorative version in nobody's life. 8. Do not insist where there is no longer reciprocity. Few things bother those who once had you secure as much as seeing that you no longer insist, that you are no longer waiting for a change, an answer, a sign, an apology that never arrives, because the act of insisting when there is no reciprocity is not perseverance, it is emotional self-sabotage. And when you finally understand it, when you stop, you breathe and say, up to here, something brutally powerful happens. It begins to heal your dignity, and they begin to lose the power they had over you, because you no longer run, you no longer explain, you no longer ask for opportunities from those who don't know what to do with them. The Stoics spoke of detachment with respect, not from hatred or resentment, but from a clear understanding that to insist where you are not valued is to voluntarily surrender yourself to suffering, and you are no longer there for that. You are no longer going to lower yourself for a half-hearted conversation, or for emotional alms, or for someone who answers when it suits them and disappears when you need them most. You learned the hard way. Perhaps that reciprocity is not demanded, it is recognized, and when it is not there, it is accepted with maturity and let go with firmness. And yes, it can hurt at first because the heart still holds the foolish hope that everything will change. But the soul has already understood that you cannot force someone to see you when they refuse to open their eyes. So that person who used to have you begging you now sees that you don't send more messages, that you no longer comment on their stories, that you don't ask how their day is going, or insist on fixing what clearly only you wanted to fix. And that absence activates something inside them, a mix of surprise, emptiness, even frustration. Because you are no longer repeating the pattern. You are no longer in emotional beggar mode. You are in stoic mode, focused on what depends on you and letting go of what is with pain at first, but with freedom later. Because when you stop insisting, they start to wonder, what did you lose? But above all, what did they lose? 9. Choosing yourself without making a spectacle. Nothing causes more impact, those who scorned you, than seeing that now you choose yourself without noise, without revenge, without the need to announce it on social networks or make dramatic speeches of I'm walking away because I deserve more. Because when you really choose yourself, you don't do it to be noticed, you do it because you can no longer continue betraying yourself to fit in places where you don't fit. It's not about disappearing suddenly or playing that now. You're worth more from pride. It's about stopping giving away your time, your energy, and your love to those who didn't know what to do with them, and that, no matter how silent it is, generates an earthquake in those who got used to seeing you available because you didn't make a scandal, you didn't make innuendos, you didn't beg, you just started walking differently, more focused, calmer, more you, and that confuses. That shakes, that makes noise, because it is expected that those who suffer make noise. But you kept silent, and in that silence you rebuilt yourself, piece by piece, until you became someone who no longer accepts crumbs, because you understood your value without needing anyone to remind you. And for those who believe you weak, it is unbearable, because they thought that you were always going to be there, waiting, available, needy, and now they see that not only are you not begging, but you are not resentful, you are at peace, you are firm, you are so focused on your path that you no longer stop to see if they notice your absence. And right there, when you no longer do anything for them to see it is when they feel it the most, because they understood late that your presence was no guarantee that your love was not infinite, and that now that you decided to choose you without warning, there is nothing they can do to get you back, because you have already returned home, and that home is you. And so without needing to scream or get revenge or get defensive, you took control. Because these 9 attitudes are not to manipulate anyone, they are to remind yourself of your worth. Each one of them is a silent declaration that you are no longer. You're going to beg for what you deserve, that you're not going to give your energy away to someone who doesn't know what to do with it, and that you finally understood what the Stoics have been repeating for centuries. True freedom is not in controlling others, but in no longer needing their approval, choosing to respect yourself to be you. That shouldn't hurt anyone, but those who didn't value you will hurt, and not because you punished them, but because you no longer need them. That is your power now. So if something in this video resonated with you inside, join our community on WhatsApp or Telegram. The links are down here in the description and in the pinned comment. Yes, right there, where every day there are more of us who are choosing to live with clarity, with firmness, and with purpose. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe, give it a like if this brought you value, activate the bell so you don't miss what's coming, and I invite you to take a look at the other videos on the channel. Each one is made to awaken something in you. And before you go, if you got here, comment below. My peace is non-negotiable, so I'll know that you are one of those who no longer bend to fit in, but rather stand by choice. See you in the next video, and remember, whoever controls their attitude doesn't need to explain themselves.